Good morning and welcome to the second official day of the class, but I wanted to answer a couple of questions that keep popping up. So if you have not watched all of the podcasts, please make sure to do that before you email me questions, because most of the questions that I've gotten so far have already been answered in the podcast. So I want to point out to you that you've got the welcome podcast there, which is just a general hello. But then you have several podcasts here that go over the syllabus in great detail, what the different requirements are for the course, when the things will be due, what the general rhythm for the course is. And then for every single assignment, you've got your due dates listed right here, even not just the day, but the time that those assignments are due. And you've also got the actual flow of draft dates within the podcast here. So watch all your podcasts. Make sure you look at your assignment sheets and you watch your podcasts. Those are hopefully very helpful in terms of understanding procedures and policies. But that doesn't mean you might not have questions still, and I'm very happy to receive those. So just email me for any kind of clarification. In some cases, I'll just send you an email back, and in others, I'll do kind of a public response like this, because I think there's a possibility that others might have some of the same questions, and this way I can answer everybody all at once. So with that in mind, let's go back up here, and I'm going to just go through a couple of questions I've been receiving, so that way this way I know I'm getting through everything. So the first one is, if you look at the syllabus and you watch the podcast, it says that you will address all of the questions, or rather it'll say that you address 2 questions in the reading responses. But if you actually open up the forum for some of the reading responses, there are times where I say please address all of the questions. So if I don't give you instructions in your weekly reading response forum where I'm asking you to answer all questions, then you want to answer at least 2, all right? But if you see for that particular week or that particular unit where I ask you to address all of the questions, then you just answer all of them. So follow the at least 2 is the minimum that you would do unless I specify that you answer all of them. Okay, so just that, hopefully that clears that up. The peer responses to the reading questions, yeah, you want to respond to at least 2 of your peers, and you don't need to respond to each of their answers, but you want to just, in general, you want to respond to their reading response. So what this is doing then ultimately is creating a sense of community, right? So you are personally doing the reading and you are personally responding to the questions that I'm posing, and then you're having a look at at least 2 other people's responses, and you're commenting on that. And these can be fairly informal comments, right? They're sort of reflections on maybe some similarities that you see between their reading reflections and yours, or some differences, or maybe they've identified something that you didn't, or they're showing complications in a text that you want to expand on. But in any case, your job here is to connect with your classmates through these particular reading responses. So I want you to do that with at least 2 of your peers. And really, you don't even know, you need to go beyond. When I say at least 2, just consider it 2. There's plenty of you in the class to go around, so you should all be able to find 2 people, respond to their work, and that should do it. And you want to do that in the discussion forums. See right here on the screen? This is your discussion forum. So that's where that work happens. All right, let me get through another question here. So, okay, for the actual peer review to a peer's draft, you want to use the peer review worksheet that's been provided, and that's it should come out at about a page. Your response, if you answered the questions that I'm asking you to use as you evaluate your peer's rough draft of these different assignments, if you use that worksheet, or though that is a template to address your peers' work, you should be giving them about a solid page worth of feedback. So let me show you an example of this. So here's the literacy narrative, right? It tells you when it's due, that your draft is due July 13th. And the peer review is due July 14th. So what that means is you turn in your draft on July 13th alongside everyone else in the class, and you have 24 hours then to read someone else's and then provide feedback by July 14th, right? And do you see the peer review guidelines right there? That is the worksheet that you want to use. And that's just me helping you give meaningful feedback, as opposed to saying, okay, give feedback. And then what happens then is some students just say, I liked it. Well, that's not feedback, right? That's just you reacting positively, which is good, but it's not really a constructive amount of feedback that would help the student improve their work, which is what you want too in your peers' feedback. You, after you submit your draft and while you're working on someone else's draft, you're going to be hoping that the feedback you get in response to your work will actually help you bring out your best work, and revise and make corrections that will help improve your writing. And rather than leaving it up to you to just sort of figure out blindly how to help your peer get there, because we're not meeting face to face for me to do this work in class with you, I'm providing these guidelines to help you stay kind of on task as you give quality feedback. And you see it right here as well with the second major assignment, the writing in the disciplines. It tells you when your draft is due, when the peer review is due, and here's the peer review guidelines. Okay? If you watch the podcasts, then you'll see where I ask you to use these peer review guidelines. So that should help you stay, meet that page requirement. All right. Okay. Hopefully that has answered that one. Which draft gets posted to 8 portfolios, and where exactly do we post it since there isn't a folder or course set up in a portfolio? Okay. Great question. So if you scroll all the way down to the last week here, it's an e-portfolio, so we're not doing A portfolios. There's a slight difference between the two. We're just going to do an e-portfolio in this class. We're not going to do the A portfolio. And the difference is that A portfolios, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I'll try to stay just brief with this difference. But if you have been in a class, maybe you took another section, or you had a friend who took RC 2001 in a face-to-face setting and used A portfolios, so if you are familiar enough, then hopefully this will clarify the difference. But a digital portfolio, in the end, is what we're doing in here. And that's where all your work goes into one electronic file and you submit it to me. There's 2 different ways you could do that. You could do it through a portfolio, which is an actual electronic platform that Appalachian State has purchased. And it was piloted last year in several sections, including mine, and it's going to be rolled out across the university so that everyone taking RC 2001 will submit their work in this A portfolio platform. And that's a specific technology. That's a specific platform that has been built for Appalachian State, and that is it sort of enables lots of different technologies, right? Lots of different multimodalities. And rather than us going through that in here, because it's not the easiest to learn, it's not the hardest, but it would require some one-on-one with me, and I like to do hands-on with my students where we actually get in front of computers and we learn how to use that technology, so that in the end, when you're submitting your work through a portfolio, you're not worried about whether or not you know how to use the technology. You're worrying more instead about the quality of your work. Because we don't have that opportunity in an online space like this, and even if I did a podcast like this, I still think that several of you would feel a little bit adrift. So rather than put you in that position, especially when it comes to your final portfolio, we're just going to do right here. Do you see where it says e-portfolio? That's an assignment link, and all I want you to do is take your work and upload it into this as one giant Microsoft Word document. So you'll go back through, and you'll first of all, you'll read the assignment sheet for the final portfolio. You see right there, and it tells you when it's due. And you see the podcast I've already made that talks you through the assignment. And then there's the reflective cover letter. Everything is explained, hopefully very clearly. And even if it isn't, we're going to have a chance to conference with one another, either through Skype or through telephone or Google Hangouts, whatever works for you. And I think you'll find as we get closer to the last week of class, you'll have some real clarity about you in terms of the rhythm and my expectations. So be easy with yourself. You'll get there. But In any case, the the opportunities will present themselves along the way, so that you're not, the big questions that you have now will hopefully have been answered along the way. And if they haven't, then I'll make sure they're answered before you submit anything. But do make sure that you're watching that podcast, that you're reading the assignment, and that, of course, you're taking advantage of the conference opportunity with me. And then here, you will submit it all as one Microsoft Word document. Everything that is required in the portfolio, you copy and paste into one long document, including that cover letter, which we'll talk about later, and you just submit it right there, okay? So if you hear me reference electronic portfolios, digital portfolios, even a portfolio, really, this is it right here, okay? We're not doing the actual technical, it's called Digication, which is the technology that ASU uses to create this A-portfolio platform. So just sort of shelf that for now. Okay, let me make sure I've gotten through everything. I've answered the peer review questions. Okay, I think that's everything. So if you still have questions, just ask me, email me, and we'll keep doing these podcasts. Or sometimes if they're just a quick little one-off, I'll just do a response through email, a mass email to everyone, and I'll post it in the discussion forum so that you have it for later reference. Hopefully this answers everything. If not, just send me more emails. All right, and I hope you're enjoying the class so far, and I know some of you are still trying to gather your textbooks. That's fine. Just piece it together as you can, and just start, getting that rhythm down. By this time next week, you will absolutely have your feet beneath you, and you'll understand the general rhythm of the course. This is the hard part right now. You're in the hard part. This is where students feel a little unsure of themselves, especially if this is your first online class. It's always a little bit unsettling if you haven't taken a class online before, because that face-to-face, that opportunity to sort of turn and look at the person sitting at the desk beside you and say, is this what she meant? Right? That's gone right now. So if you're feeling a little bit adrift, that's why. That's a normal feeling. If it makes you feel any better, it's usually the students who are a little bit nervous right about now who do the best in online settings, because they realize they need to be paying close attention because of the differences. So maybe that helps you feel a little bit more at ease. But in any case, just email me if you have more questions, and we'll get through it together. Okay.